The NDA on the Battlefield 6, Mirak Valley, and Operation Firestorm maps is up, and while I am not someone privy to this gameplay and whatnot, I don't know if this was a capture event or something in Battlefield Labs, to be perfectly honest. I'm assuming it's a capture event because it seems like only creators got access to it, or I don't know. But I'm going to talk about some things from an outsider's perspective, of someone who didn't get to play but noticed a few things that weren't quite gone over in a lot of people's videos, posts, tweets, streams, whatever. I'm going to go over those today with regards to Mirak Valley Firestorm. I'm also going to go over some of the gadgets, how I think they're being implemented, some of the design choices. I'm not going to go over the new weapons because if you've played any FPS in the last 10 years, you've seen every single weapon that was shown off, so there's really no point in going over them, and a lot of the creators already did that anyway. I'm also going to go over the new mode, Escalation, what I think about it from an outsider's perspective, again, some of the design decisions going into it, and how all these things are going to impact you and your experience, whether it is going to enrage you, if you're that type of player, or if you're just going to have a fun, chill time, which if it's anything like the beta, I'm going to lean towards fun, chill time. But again, we're going to go through these. First of all, Mirak Valley. I have, for some reason, had this mental connection with Mirak Valley ever since all the maps got shown off. Even when it was just one still image, for some reason, this map has been sticking in my brain. There's just something about the vibes of it. You got these golden open fields, but this dark, dreary skies, mountains in the background, trenches. Maybe it's because it reminds me a lot of Battlefield 1. Maybe it's because any Battlefield game with an obscure Central Asian country setting, map, whatever, is a banger, and that map is also usually a banger. So that's what I'm going to roll with today. But from what I've seen, it does look fantastic. There is some, I'll say, limited levolution where if you shoot the weight off the back of a crane, it'll actually collapse into a building. Now, it doesn't take the entire building down, but it is very cool and cinematic and changes a bit of how that objective plays, and I think that's awesome. One of the reasons I like this limited sort of levolution is, if you think back to Siege of Shanghai, probably the most iconic levolution in the franchise, that map is really fun, and playing on the skyscraper is really fun until it comes down. Then that area sucks, and it kind of ruins the entire rest of the map, because the other parts of the map, they're okay. They're not amazing. They're okay. It's a pretty map. It can be fun, but it's not incredible. Not that it even is with the skyscraper up, but the skyscraper is the most fun part of the map. And then it comes down, and then it all kind of sucks, right? That's what people are afraid of. Now, not every map with levolution was like that in BF4, but some of them were. And this is the type of levolution I like to see, because it's there, it's a spectacle, it's fun, but it doesn't fundamentally change the way the entire map flows. It's a bit thoughtful, and you're going to notice that as a theme of what I go over. Now, let's talk about Operation Firestorm. If you've played Battlefield 3 and 4, you know what Operation Firestorm is. If not, think deserts, think sand, think Anakin Skywalker, think fire. I'm just kidding. No one gets burned alive unless you're a sniper and I can open that valve. Operation Firestorm is almost exactly like it describes. It's a storm of fire. You're at an oil refinery in a desert, and it's a big combined arms map. When you think of a Battlefield map, Firestorm is a great example, right? You have tanks, you have planes, choppers, infantry. It's got space on it, but it seems in this iteration they have shrunk down the play space slightly. Just in the areas where there's some empty, lesser used space. I don't want to say unused space, but lesser used space. I don't know if this is to funnel vehicles more into objective areas, potentially. Keep the combined arms aspect, combined arms, don't have them just necessarily roaming around the outside the whole time or sitting back in their spawn. But it also might just be for pacing, to keep things clashing together on the objectives, if that makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong, they didn't turn it into Operation Metro, so don't worry if you are a vehicle player. It is still definitely spacious. But it seems like they're going for a particular experience in this game, and that's emphasized, in my opinion, by how they trimmed some fat on Operation Firestorm. It still looks incredibly fun. Largely, spiritually, I would say this seems a lot like the OG Operation Firestorm in terms of how it plays, the chaos, the aspects of blowing up oil refinery tanks and whatnot. It's what you want from a map like this, right? Now, again, this is where I bring up that thoughtful aspect again. This is going to be a theme with a lot of things I described today. Not all of it is good. Keep that in mind. I don't know if I already said that. Not all of it is good, but a lot of it is, and it's very low risk without having to reinvent the wheel. So let's talk about some of the gadgets. Similar to Levolution, I had concerns over the gadgets. is something like the mortar going to be incredibly irritating to have to deal with in a game? Because unlike sniping, where you have to actually get out of cover and use skill to take a shot, you can just sit behind a rock and fire mortar shells over and over again. And if those mortar shells are pretty intense, that gets annoying pretty quickly. They didn't seem that way just from watching people play. But again, this is one we're going to have to get hands on, right? Gadgets are one of those things where, even weapons really, where they seem okay in a controlled environment like a creator space where it's just creators playing, or even like a limited closed alpha or beta audience. But once they're in the wild and everyone who's in the player base has access to them, well, people are creative, so they do crazy things with them, and things you don't even expect become crazy annoying or crazy good, or, you know, any number of things. And so that's what I'm wondering about with the mortars. They don't seem overpowered from what I've seen. They don't seem, I don't even know how to describe them. I don't even know what to properly rate them, right? Are they underpowered? Are they overpowered? Are they properly powered? I don't know. They don't seem like they're getting multi-kills every time someone fires one. That's fine. Of course, you wouldn't want that. But I don't know if there's going to be 3 or 4 people just firing off airburst rounds over people's heads every breakthrough round, just right behind the defensive line. You know, that can get annoying too. So you kind of got to see both sides of it there and how it's going to actually work in the game. There's also a missile intercept system. Now, again, it's going to depend on how it's implemented. Now, if you have a very good pilot who's been dropping bombs on you and your squad's head this whole time, or missiles or whatever, you can put that down and kind of take some heat off yourself. You are taking up a gadget slot, but it's worth it if your entire squad isn't getting blown up every 5 seconds or however long it takes for jets to come back around or choppers to come back around. I can also see this used by tank drivers. Get out, put it down, maybe get a bit campy in your tank. That could be an issue if you're sitting way at the back of the map and no one can hit you with a missile. That's a problem. So again, I think there's a lot of thoughtfulness that's gone into some of these gadgets, but there's also some, when it's out in the wild, creativity I can see maybe going south. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe it doesn't work like that at all. Maybe it doesn't intercept things like SRAW or javelins or anything like that. Maybe it only intercepts missiles that come off of aircraft. I don't know. I don't know why it would separate the two. I could be wrong, but maybe that's the case. Now, to get to one thing that is just an outright negative, that is the fact that the rangefinder can be paired with the zeroing on a sniper rifle, to where anyone sniping has 0 drop on their bullets in effect. Combine this with the sweet spot and the intense amount of spotting a recon can do, that's a recipe for an issue. I know they took the sniper glint back a notch in the recent patch notes, and I'm not sure if they've patched separating the rangefinder from the zeroing. I don't know. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But I can definitely see an issue with the recon being quite powerful with all these things. Now, again, going back to the sniper glint, they did that because they saw a lot of memes about all the snipers on Liberation Peak and whatnot. And that's fine. The sniper glint was pretty bright. I don't need it to be as bright as the sun, but I still need it to be there. Again, I don't know how far they've taken it down. I'm sure it's still noticeable a bit. They didn't say they removed it or anything. But they didn't address the actual problem with the snipers on Liberation Peak, which was a combination of the map design and things like the sweet spot mechanic, making it incredibly easy for anyone to pick up a sniper rifle, especially the one in the beta, since it was good at like 100 to 120 meters or something like that. So you didn't even have to be that far away. Liberation Peak isn't that big. Sweet spot makes it pretty easy to get kills. A lot of people are going to snipe, right? That's the process, the order of events that goes into something like that. So when you're just reducing the sniper glint, you're not addressing the actual issue of why there's so many sniper glints on the side of the map. Now, at this point, are they going to actually take away the sweet spot mechanic? I think it's too late for that. Maybe they would rework it later on, but this isn't something that's going to happen by launch. I don't think it should be in the game. I didn't have a problem with it in BF1 because it fit that particular setting. It made sense because bolt actions were the primary standard issue weapon of World War I, so you want those to be encouraged in gameplay. It didn't always play out that way, of course. A lot of people were using assault and medic rifles and LMGs, but it was encouraged. And it was made to be pretty satisfying. I think a lot of people use the recon class just because of that. Does that fit in a modern shooter though? No. And again, I don't think having zeroing paired with a rangefinder, paired with a sweet spot mechanic, paired with a less intense sniper glint, paired with intense spotting is a good combination of things to have in a modern FPS shooter. Now, I know not every map is going to be fit for snipers, but again, it's still something I think they need to take a look at, breaking up some of those things you can chain together and be pretty powerful. I don't want to make this video all about sniping, but let's move on to the new game mode, Escalation. And it's almost exactly like it sounds, right? As time goes, one team gets points and it kind of shrinks a circle down, almost like a battle royale. And you have to capture the objectives in that circle. And whoever captures more objectives in that circle gets a point, and then it shrinks again. But as it shrinks, each team gets more vehicles. Now, this definitely sounds like they're escalating the chaos, but I don't know if that's really how it should play out. Now, again, this is one I don't even see that many people showing a lot of gameplay of. I haven't seen too many people talking about it, so maybe it's not very good. Typically what happens when people aren't very excited for a mode that's maybe being shown off a bit too early. Here's the thing. I like the idea that it's this proper blend of battle royale systems and battlefield conquest systems, right? You capture objectives, the circle shrinks, it creates a bit more chaos, a bit more density in the player experience. The problem is, if you're even stagnating the vehicle count, let alone increasing it on these smaller objectives, I'm talking about going from 6 to 3 by the final circle, you're just creating explosive spam and chaos for the sake of chaos. Whereas what would probably be more fun and get a bit more reception is something more akin to taking an open map like Mirak Valley and shrinking it down to where you almost have this pseudo Metro lockers experience. Because we all know, I know some people find Metro and lockers a bit overrated, especially Metro, because you're just kind of standing at checkpoints the whole time and throwing grenades. It's not for me personally. After a while, it's fun for a few matches, but it gets old for me quick. Lockers is a bit more open, and it's probably closer to what it would feel like. And so I'm thinking if you go more towards that and every round finishes like that, you could have a very fun, more intense but curated experience that brings that battlefield chaos together a bit more poetically than just, hey, what if we put 30 choppers and 12 tanks on 3 objectives? It's just not going to pan out very well, right? Unless you just want everyone in vehicles. And again, maybe I just need to get hands-on. Maybe it's insanely fun. I could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. But as I said, at least in theory, I think this one needs a bit of a rework in terms of how it's going to play out, because it has potential. It has potential, but the feedback I've been seeing from people who have played it doesn't seem to be the most exciting. No one's like raving about Escalation from what I've seen. Like, could be wrong. Maybe you have a few here and there. But anyway, let me know down below. What do you think of this new Battlefield 6 information? What do you think of things that you've noticed that maybe I didn't pick up on? Let me know down below. Let's have a conversation, and I will see you in the next video.